Hey everyone, I'm MrBorisPavlov, and welcome to the Pug Project, or the Rogue Project, or whatever I end up calling it. Maybe a combination of both, who knows. A few things to get out of the way. First, I need to apologise for a lot of the footage you're going to see. Most of it's pulled from streams and got garbled in the process of trying to pull it from there. Secondly, Mike from Preach Gaming has done something very similar. What I've done is more than just inspired by what he did. I definitely recommend watching his series of videos as well. They go into way more detail than I will. This will serve more as a second opinion, a second point of data, but spoiler alert, what I experienced mostly perfectly backs up and supports what he found and what he describes in his videos. Thirdly, when I started the challenge, we did have empowered artifacts, which did help speed things up quite a lot, but with only 2 weeks till pre-patch at the time, it gives me a lot shorter of a deadline, which other players wouldn't have on characters that have been playing for a while. So what is the challenge and what are the rules? The challenge is to see if we could achieve both Keystone Master and Ahead of the Curve entirely in the Pug world using a freshly boosted character. No guild or friend assistance whatsoever. Now in the footage you will see this character is in my guild, but I wasn't using them at all. It was more so they could just still contact me in game while I was on this character. Nothing more to it than that. Also, I did use my account for this. As a student, I don't exactly have the funds to purchase a whole new account just for this, like Preach did. But I did not use any of the perks that come with that, like sending this character a care package, like most people do. You chuck, a few thousand gold in the mail and some pots maybe. And I didn't use any of the achievements I already had to get into groups. Only my new character and my knowledge of the game. So, where do we start? I think it's time to use the boost I got from purchasing Battle for Azeroth on a character, but what class do we play? I decided on a rogue to further limit myself in the options to try and show a worst case scenario in the Pug world. Not only am I limited to playing DPS on a rogue, because this would be a hell of a lot easier if I could have tanked or healed, but I'm playing melee, and a change from Mike who did it on a warlock. And maybe we can quiet some of the people who thought him playing on a warlock was a cop-out, which already is an excuse, but people were grasping at straws. So we boost our character, and immediately there's a problem. We're given a set of 873 item level gear and 2 quests, one to go to the Order Hall and one to go to Argus. Where the hell is the Rogue Order Hall? Some direction really would have been good here, Blizz, since it took me way too long to figure out that I needed to talk to one of the shopkeepers for him to open the door to the class hall. Like, I knew the Rogue's class hall was underground and that there were like little levers and stuff in some shops to hit, but I couldn't hit them. It took me at least 20 minutes to figure out how to actually talk to somebody. But we got in, so first things first, we need to get the class hall going, get it ticking over so that we can equip multiple legendaries and get the class hall stuff done, because that opens up a few more things later down the road. But it's at this point we now encounter the second issue, heading to Argus. A rogue at 873 is not ideal for doing Argus questing, but that's the only other quest we got, so that's where we're going. It took way longer than expected to get Argus cleared, because I was having to pull very cautiously, use stealth way more than I should have. I was dying left, right and center, Crimson Vial basically becoming my new favorite ability because of this, but eventually, after about 5 hours, we did get it done, so we can start getting our relinquished gear and sorting out some emissaries. Luckily, 2 of the emissaries that were up at the time were on Argus. So we sorted them out, and boom, our first orange shows up, the boots for assassination. Not bad at all, I think they're 3rd best, so not biz, not the shoulders, but workable. Now, because we now have a 1000 item level piece equipped on our character, that's boosted our item level a ludicrous amount and we can start queuing for LFR. And boy, what a waste of time that is. Yes, I got a few little pieces in there that saved me having to get them from the relinquished vendor, but for the time invested, you are much better off just doing Argus stuff each day and buying the relinquished gear. But we got the full clear done, and got the Lego ring from Velen, despite the fact that we can't even equip to her yet, but hey, we have it, so in case we don't have a third one, no, in case we don't have a second one, by the time we can equip 2, we can just use that. And for the next few days, we just spend it clearing Argus every few hours, until we're about 9:15, and it's time to start queuing into the pugs, where the fun stuff begins. In we go. So into the pug world we go, and immediately I'm taken by surprise. I was expecting abrasion right out of the gate from what I heard from forum posts, word of mouth, just general chatter in the community. But it wasn't the case. I used a strategy of just queuing for everything I could, and before I knew it, I was invited to a normal mode Antaurus within 10 minutes. Not much to really talk about in there, since normal has mostly been figured out by everyone by now, and there was only a handful of wipes on later bosses. But already, I'm noticing there's a lack of understanding of how this game works, and just a lack of understanding of how bosses work at this level. Of course the dogs are going to go off right now, don't mind them. But I'm noticing this because it's only a handful of people that are doing the mechanics correctly, and that's what's getting us through. You see, you tend to notice the small things when you're doing this, when, say, Portal Keeper for example, you go up to the little portal area, and you kill the boss. I noticed it was the same, only 4 or 5 people going up there with the tank. No healer was coming up. But it was those same 4 or 5 people that were doing the correct mechanics on every boss. And in normal, that's all you need to get the bosses down. You only need a handful of people that know what they're doing, and it'll drop. Now throughout the normal run, because keep in mind, I'd never played a rogue before in my life, so I was learning it at the same time as trying to get this done. I was getting more and more comfortable on my rogue, using every pull to tweak things, every add phase to figure out how I do AoE on an assassination rogue, not as easy as you'd think, and I was climbing the damage meter with every boss, regardless of whether or not I was getting gear. I was getting a handful of pieces, but not enough to warrant the 200, 300, 400k DPS increases I was getting with each boss. And by the end of the instance, I was getting near the top, which felt good, I'm not gonna lie. To see that amount of progress in only one run was amazing. So what was the haul from our normal mode clear? I got 3 tier pieces and a new neck piece, pushing us to 932. Now there's only 1 day until reset at this point, and I've not done any Mythic Plus yet. So the night before reset, I start queuing, and once again, I'm invited to a +9 within 5 minutes. I thought it was going to be harder than this, but that comes later. We promptly +3 it, nothing abnormal, nothing really worth mentioning here. We don't have the 3rd affix, which just made things a hell of a lot easier, because that 3rd affix really is a jump in difficulty. We still get through it though, on time, so it's time to see if I can do something a little bit higher. Maybe I can get invited to something higher, so let's start spamming those invites again. About 15 minutes later, give or take, I'm invited to an Archway 13. I was a bit surprised by this, because most people for a 13 are asking for a ludicrous item level, like 950 for a 13, which is stupid. But I'm invited nonetheless, but once I get in, I notice that the tank, whose group it is way overgeared for the 13. He's like 970 or something ludicrous, and he's just inviting the first people that signed up so that he can get it done before reset. Pretty easy, sure, I'll take it. He also says in chat that he's not fussed with finishing in time and just wants a chill run. So we jump in, 2 other DPS are about the same gear as me, and a healer that's a little bit under us. I don't know what to expect from this group, but we could have a plus 13 cash ready for us the next day, so I'm not going to complain. Through the dungeon we go, and on Trash, no real issues. There's at least one wipe per boss, but after each boss, the tank is explaining to the group what went wrong and what the guys had to look out for. This guy's a freaking hero. Now, I knew what was going on, but I decided to keep quiet mostly, just to see what happens. But with this tank giving directions, the group cleared it in time, and we have Keystone Conqueror in the bag, plus safe, plus 13 cash, waiting for us the next morning. Aces. So to recap our first reset, we got one LFR done, a normal mode Antaurus fully cleared, we've almost gotten all of the relinquished pieces we can, we got 2 Mythic Plus done, a plus 9 and a plus 13, and we have that plus 13 cash waiting for us the next day with a 950 item, and we will be able to equip 2 legendaries. So we finish at about 936. A good haul for 6 days in, I think. So, it's a new week, and everything has been reset. Time to go get some of the easy, early week stuff out of the way. We clear out the rest of our emissaries, while in queue for another LFR, just to see if we can get some easy small upgrades to maybe make the relinquished vendor more obsolete quickly. And while doing that, we also finish off the relinquished vendor, so that every single slot is at least 910, making all that content now dead. We get into another normal mode, we get it cleared, which gets us our 3rd legendary. I think it was Killed Jaden's trinket, so, you know, boo. But hey, it's two to equip. That's not the ring from Argus, thankfully. But in that normal, we managed to also get another tier piece, now giving us 4, before my Demon Hunter, which I'd been preparing to main in Battle for Azeroth for like a month now. But hey, random drops is random drops. We'll move on. Now, I also managed to get most of the class stuff done last week and today, getting the weapon skins and the class mount, doing the, was it the Paraxis thing? No, Centinax, that's the one. Doing that's a pain without groups anymore, but we can just solo them anyway as long as you get the little stones that open them up. So that's all done. Also during this time the Mage Tower's up, so I figured, hey, why not try and go get those as well? Why the hell not? And we managed to smash those out in the same day. All 3 of them. The sub one was pretty annoying with the ads at the end, and me not really knowing how to AoE them down correctly, but we overgeared the crap out of it. We're at like nearly 940 now, which was more than enough to get it done. So anyone claiming that the Mage Tower is too hard at this point has no excuses left, since I managed to get them done on a character that's not even a week old. You know, 1 reset. So now, with all that done, our rogue is finished with world quests, finished with LFR, finished with relinquished. All the order hall stuff is done. Now all that is left is to get Curve and Keystone Master. So we are ready. We have our own key to push. Let's go get it. Yeah, not that simple. My key to get done is the plus 12 Halls of Valor. The week's affixes are Bolstering, Skittish and Fortified. In my eyes, a pretty easy win. We just pull small lots of ads, bosses are not really going to bother us this week, and Skittish isn't going to be a problem. I'm playing a rogue, we have Tricks of the Trade. That extra aggro should be enough. Boy was I wrong. So I didn't use Radar IO for any of the group making, and I was just going with the best geared people that signed up, which I assume is what most people do. This wasn't a problem for the first dungeon, because we just go in, we get in there, we just barely missed the plus 3, and it turns in another Halls of Valor. We're now with a 14 Halls of Valor. Okay, let's just keep going. But now the sadness starts. Now is where the stories come from. So using the same strat for inviting people, I get another group together, and it falls apart just after the first boss. Some DPS leave, and then there goes everyone else. Well, shit. Okay, well, we'll just try again. We got a 13 now. Exactly the same thing happens, except this time, it's at the first boss. The healer pieces out, and the group dies again. I'm really not feeling good at this point, but we must soldier on. Queue up the 12. Now, this late in the night, I was really starting to scrounge for people because, well, 12 isn't really worth much to anyone at this point. But 20 minutes go by, and we get a group together. We go in, and it's an easy win. Another +2. But, whatever, the dungeon has at least changed, and now we can go try somewhere else. Because Hov is too hard this week, apparently, for Pugs. But it's now an Archway 14, and we were waiting in queue for quite some time to get this one done. I went through 3 sets of DPS that didn't want to wait for on a tank and a healer before we actually started. But eventually, we do get in there. We start pulling, and it's very evident these guys have no idea how this place works or what to do. The group falls apart on the 3rd pack of trash, with the healer and tank both piecing out and leaving. Well, I guess we just try again, but no luck again. But hey, at least we got one boss down this time. But then the tank decides to pull too much, we wipe, he leaves, another dead group. I'm starting to get pretty damn frustrated here, so I decided to give Mythic Plus a rest and go do Heroic and Taurus instead. Maybe we'll have better luck there. We'll go for the other half of the challenge instead. But I'll talk more about that when I'm talking about actually getting the curve. Now, getting curve did take up the whole weekend and Monday night, and pre-patch is tomorrow. So we have one night to get it done. Or so I thought. You know, we could actually get it afterwards, but I didn't know that at the time. So now, I'm basically thinking my key's essentially dead at this point. There's not enough time to slog my key through the ranks. So I'm just going to try and join a group. Time to start spamming them again. Quickly it becomes evident that 940, according to the community, isn't good enough to get straight into a 15. Despite the fact that my character's more than capable of doing it. I'm really comfortable on my rogue at this point, and empowered artifacts are now at 151 traits. But no, 940 according to the community still isn't good enough. Plus, higher geared than me are no doubtedly queuing up for these 15s, which leaves me with pretty few options. A new strategy may be needed here. Maybe if I get into a 13 or 14, and the groups end up being good enough to turn it into a 15, they will stick together and I'll get it done that way. So that's the plan. We will do that. And it starts well. We do a 13 Upper Kara, which turns into a 16 Archway. Fuck, no one stays. No one stays for an Archway at 16. Not this week's. And, well, unfortunately that was the tune for the rest of the night. I did 3 Upper Karas that turned into 15s, but the group would never stay together until the 4th Upper Kara, because Upper Kara is just the god key this week, turned into a 15 Quarter Stars, and the group wanted to stick together to get it done. We're in with a chance. But Quarter Stars is risky, because of one reason that any experienced person knows about. The imps. It starts well though. We clear up to the first boss with minimal deaths, and he dies with no issues. So at this point I'm feeling confident and chomping at the prospect of actually getting the challenge done in less than 2 resets. I'm over the moon at this point. But the penny drops, and the imps have other plans. It's at this point I realise we only have the Demon Hunter tank silence to deal with them. We have no AoE stuns or silences other than that, and as to be expected, that's just it. The imps wipe us multiple times per pack, and the timer is out before the second boss. But it's a 15, and the group push through because of that. You know, it's the mystical 15. And we end up getting it done an hour overtime. And this is where time ran out for me. I was sat looking for dungeons from 1 hour until shutdown, all the way until 10 minutes till shutdown, with no invites. I thought we had failed, and I wasn't feeling good. The next day, however, pre-patch is upon us. New class changes to test out, and the last night was pretty well behind me. I decided to see what dungeons are like at this point, and because no one is used to the new item levels, I'm invited to a 15 immediately. The dungeon goes down without a hitch, the group is even just discussing the class changes while we're going through, and we finish it with a +3, and what pops up? Keystone Master. Now I thought it was going away until BFA Dungeon started up, but hey, we got it, and I'm pretty over the moon at this point. Now coming to think of it, is it cheating that we got it during pre-patch? Maybe, but given a few more weeks of normal farm and heroic now that I have curved to get into those groups easier, and the Mythic plus catch each week boosting our item level over and over, with, you know, a couple weeks, we could easily get my item level high enough to get into 15s more consistently, and Keystone Master would fall over a lot faster. Would fall over easier and easier each week. But hey, take it with what you want. We now have Keystone Master and half the challenge done. So getting curve. We have an actual deadline this time in 3 days when the achievement goes away forever, so we don't have a lot of time. Time to spam those queues. Getting into heroic wasn't difficult at all. Getting into a heroic that could actually kill things, on the other hand, was a different story. Most groups could kill Garothy, but fall apart at dogs for some reason. So we were stuck with killing the first boss a couple times and having to find another group after a wipe at dogs, and it inevitably fell apart. The first group after this I had hoped for was advertised as an 11 out of 11 mythic lead, smashing it out. And it was good for a time. The dogs died first pull. Alright. So I thought we could actually go other ways with this. But once again, I was wrong. Oh, how I was wrong. Despite having a crazy amount of carry DPS in this group, they could not get past high command. They decided to open up a Discord to help get this done, and there is where I found the actual problem. This raid leader, who was indeed Titan Slayer 11 out of 11 mythic, was the most arrogant prick you could imagine. This guy would constantly berate the group for not being able to do it, while himself not asking people to do the pods, or not doing them themselves either. Now, while it should be easy for most people to just jump into a pod if it's empty, in a pug, if you don't assign people, it won't get done. And so after 6 wipes, I call it quits on this group. Group number 2. We're in a partial guild group now, just getting to Garothy. I get in, they're clearing the trash up, they're there. So we're a few bosses in, it seems, and they're going well. The raid lead is actually leading the raid, and everyone's damage is appropriate, it's good. And I was killing it on this boss, timing my cooldowns correctly with the damage buff on the ads, now getting super comfortable on my rogue. But this actually proved to be an issue. Let me explain. This partial guild group had 2 rogues from the guild that were both around 960. Yeah, about 20 item levels above me, and yet doing less or on par damage. Now, what would be the normal response to this? Maybe they send me a friendly message saying, hey, how are you doing so much damage with much less gear? Or maybe they just move on and maybe look into their class a little bit more often. Maybe they can get the same results. No. Apparently, the correct response was to berate me and then kick me from the group. They kicked me from the group after 1 boss kill. I was actually kicked from a group for playing my class correctly. Okay, moving on. here is where we enter the era of Pug Agromar. With pre-patch coming, there are a lot of groups trying to get the mount before it disappears, and the cockblock for a lot of these groups seemed to be Agromar. Whether it was the ads being done wrong, not CCing them properly, or the tanks not getting the switch correctly, no group could get it done. I timed how long I was here. The total time I spent in front of Agromar Heroic, across too many groups to remember, was 11 hours 20 minutes. Stood in front of the same boss, seeing the same mistakes over and over and over again. Partially the problem was that after each wipe, the group would lose half its members and have to refill, generating a whole new host of problems because the new people coming in would create different issues. So Monday night, I'm starting to lose hope. None of these groups can get past Agromar, but hey, time's running out, I'm just going to try and get this done. So we start spamming the queues, we don't get invites for nearly an hour, until we get into a group that is stood in front of Heroic Argus. Now I thought it was a bit odd that I was invited into a Argus only group, but having a look at the group, most of the guys in there were only 5-10 item levels higher than me, and was clearly full of guys just trying to get their curve as well. That's what they were there for, they were just trying to get their curve. So here we are, looking at the final boss. I didn't care how long it took, we would get it killed tonight. We pulled, we wiped, half the group left. Fuck. But I'm sticking around. I'm doing nearly the most damage, so when the raid leader says it's time to cull the group to get it done, I knew I wasn't getting kicked. Pull after pull, we got closer and closer, until we were consistently in the final phase. The group was getting smaller and smaller, the raid leader was culling more and more people, and well, I was actually falling down the damage meter at this point as well, because being an Argus only group, a lot of 970s were joining the group, and the damage was getting better and better. Though I was still on par with some of them somehow. I wasn't bottom, despite being 20, sometimes 30 item levels lower. But never mind that. But eventually, we had a group that was going to kill it. Hilariously, the group was listed as a quick one-shot group that lasted nearly 4 hours. But we were right there. A 4% wipe. Damn it. A 300 million HP wipe. God. Bloody hell. Until finally, it dropped. Heroic Argus was dead. With most of the group dead, only me, a couple of DPS and a tank left alive, he finally went down as one of the soul bursts went up over my head. But we had done it. We got curve in less than 2 weeks. 11 days to be exact. So where does this leave us? 13 days after we boosted the character, and a slash played of 3 days 9 hours, we had both Keystone Master and ahead of the curve. To me, doing this has shown me a side of WoW that I think is utterly crazy. It's ludicrous. Why would anyone choose to play the game like this? Is it impossible to get things done? No, of course not. And anyone who says so is just making excuses. But if you live in this world, you are giving yourself the hardest time possible. Please guys, if you're watching this and you live in the Pug world, join a guild. For the love of God, join a guild. You don't need to Mythic raid. You don't even need to Heroic raid. There are guilds out there for every aspect of the game you could be interested in. There will be like-minded people in guilds happy to accept you. So one thing we do need to consider here, was it skill or was it luck getting this done? Initially, I thought it would just be luck and having the correct item level to get into groups, and hope that would be enough to get it done. But something amazing did happen after talking to the raid leader after the Argus kill and getting ahead of the curve. I asked him why I was invited to the group despite my item level being lower than everyone else, and the response he gave me was just stunning. Someone in the group saw me sign up and had asked the raid leader to invite me because this guy was in a normal run with me earlier in the week and recognized my name from that run because I was doing really well in it. I asked who it was that said that, but it was someone who was culled from the group earlier in the night and he'd forgotten the name. What a pisser. I need to buy that guy a beer. But there you go. Knowing what you're doing with your class and playing well will pay off. Whether it's with logs, like in Preacher's video, or just being recognized by some random guy in the community. It will pay off. This is definitely a crazy lucky instance, but given more time, it would get easier and easier with a trickle of gear getting you over the imposed barriers of the community. I consider this a success, despite everything. So where is this rogue now, after having done this challenge? Well, while doing it, I was expecting to not want to touch this character with a 10-foot pole afterwards, but instead the opposite effect has happened. I've grown very attached to my rogue. You know, we've been through hell and back. We've tracked through the mud and came out victorious. Now, Nihilus, my GM, might be a bit upset with me since I haven't let him know yet, but because of this challenge, and the fact that our guild has like 5 people that want the position of tank, this rogue will be my main in BFA going forward. I really enjoy Assassination, I enjoy Outlaw with Slice and Dice, and I don't mind sub. It's not my favourite, but I don't mind playing it. So whatever ends up being the best at any point, I'll be happy to play it. Plus, I've never actually focused on only DPS before, always going half and half with tank or healing, and I think it could be a lot of fun to put myself in the shoes of a full-time DPS for once and start pushing for rankings. But that's all for now. If you're interested in seeing more from me, I stream regularly. We just got affiliate, so I'm definitely making some progress there, and I'll be putting up some more maybe fun experimental videos like this one in the future. And my dogs are going off, so you can expect plenty of that on the stream as well. Again, if you found this at all interesting, I recommend going and seeing Mike's video. I'll leave a link to them in the description. He goes into way more detail and even has statistics and spreadsheets, and he gives a lot more commentary on the game as a whole during this, whereas this has more just been a recount of my experience going through it. Alright, take care guys, have a good one.